The first time speaking publicly to the Nigerian media about the U.S. allegations of a Christian genocide in Nigeria. Congressman Bill Hizenga has been a primary voice supporting President Trump's designation of Nigeria as a country of particular concern and recently introduced a new resolution that's meant to help end the killing of Christians in Nigeria. Well, in this interview, Hizenga says he was shocked by President Trump's comments about a potential military invasion of Nigeria and condemns the Nigerian government, saying he doesn't think officials here in Nigeria are taking the issue seriously enough. Well, Arise News correspondent Anieze Osakwe has this exclusive interview.
I'm here at Rayburn House, which is the office building for the U.S. House of Representatives. Because of the government shutdown, it hasn't been easy getting a hold of anyone, but we did manage to get an interview with Congressman Bill Hizenga. Let's see what he has to say about these allegations of a Christian genocide in Nigeria.
I'm glad that we're able to do this. This is something that's been very, very important, and as I've been saying to some of my colleagues, we were too late on Rwanda. We were too late on South Sudan and a number of other atrocities that have happened in Africa and other places around the world. So let's not be too late again on this one. What I'm concerned about in particular is you look at the Fulani and the radicalized Islamists, how they are attacking both moderate Muslims as well as the Christians. And I think it's hard to deny when you see 200 Christians slaughtered on Christmas Eve a few years ago. Clearly it was coordinated in the attack. And I've talked to people that were in the village. I've talked to religious leaders who have been experiencing this for years. They feel targeted and know that when their homes are being entered or they're being attacked in the middle of the night, this is not just some sort of, oh, people are in conflict. They feel very much targeted.
Because of that, the U.S. response has been swift.
Christianity is facing an existential threat in Nigeria.
President Trump threatening to potentially go into the country, guns blazing, to wipe out Islamic terrorists.
I too was surprised by the comments that came out, that the president came out that forcefully. I suspect that is not a high priority of having actual military intervention specifically in Nigeria, but I think he does want to make sure that from his view, the genocide that is happening specifically against Christians, but also others in Nigeria, needs to stop.
But instead of military strikes, Congressman Hizenga now calling for economic sanctions.
Well, I don't envision a surprise attack. I don't envision that there's going to be a military response first. As we had talked about, I would first and foremost encourage them to look at the economic pressure and sanctions on both individuals and organizations. I think that would be the most effective. Frankly, this president has been someone who has pursued peace rather than just expanding war. So I think he would be very selective before he did anything militarily. As we talked a little bit about earlier, with our government shutdown here in the United States over the last 40 plus days, that has caused some real problems for us internally. And we are having to deal with that. So first and foremost, our attention is going to be on reopening our government, trying to get it back and functioning at maximum level. That doesn't mean we stop talking about or thinking about or acting on all of these other issues, but there will probably be more of an emphasis on our government operations initially here for the next couple of weeks. Then with our appropriations bills and the things that are going on, I mean, one of the ramifications is we aren't able to have committee hearings right now. So that's one of the ways that we help try to raise the attention on these particular issues. So we need to get back to having the government open so we can start having those hearings again, and those kinds of things. Sanctions really cut off the flow of money, cut off the flow of travel. We don't know who exactly is financing much of these operations from the Fulani or Boko Haram in the past. And what I do know is, though, if we put economic pressure on them and the inability to move money around, that will have an impact, I think a positive impact. So I want to get serious about it because, again, I'm not convinced that the Nigerian government has taken the situation seriously.
Huizenga saying he thinks the Nigerian government needs to do more.
They need to demonstrate what are they doing to protect not just Christians, but certainly Christians, and what are they doing and proposing to lower that violence threshold. And I don't, that's, earlier you were asking, have I been satisfied with their response? No, because I think their response has been, no, there's really not a problem. Well, I think there is a problem. And I'd like for them to demonstrate either very clearly why they think there is no problem, which, again, as I had said in the meeting with the foreign minister, that I don't think that was adequately addressed at all, and more satisfactorily, what is their plan to deal with the violence in Nigeria, and both against Christians, but I think in general, much of the other, many of the other situations that are violent, and we talked earlier a little bit about the importance of Nigeria in not just West Africa, but the whole African continent, and the economic success and potential that is there. They being the Nigerian government has talked about, well, we don't want to have an unstable situation for Western companies to operate there. Well, you're allowing that destability, that instability to occur. So I would argue that it's not President Trump or the United States that's causing that instability. I would argue that when you can't guarantee the safety of your workers and your employees or your products, and whether it's in energy or mining or in a number of other things, you've got a problem. And obviously, Nigeria is a beneficiary from various forms of aid internationally, but they also are a beneficiary of businesses that are coming in, and I think it's in Nigeria's best interest to make sure that whether it's the Fulanis or others that are really the root cause of this, that it's addressed. I had a very frank conversation with the foreign minister back in May. Did not get satisfactory answers, and so we're paying attention and we're trying to put some pressure. If you are asking me, am I satisfied with the Nigerian government's response to both questions in committee or questions that we've had in private conversations, my answer has been no. Had I thought that they had adequate responses, we would not be having this resolution. We would not be having this legislation. And to me, my frustration is it doesn't feel like the Nigerian government has been taking this serious.
Anieze Osakwe, Arise News, Washington, D.C.
Joining us live from Washington, D.C. is Arise correspondent Anieze Osakwe. Hopefully we can have the opportunity to ask her more questions around her conversation with Congressman Huizenga. Good morning, Anieze. Good work right there, and thank you so much for that exclusive.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
We heard the Congressman Huizenga. He said that the killing of Christians in Nigeria demands a strong response from the United States, despite the country having experienced its longest shutdown in history. What's behind his persistent interest in this issue? That's Huizenga now.
Yeah, so what's interesting about Huizenga is the fact that he has somewhat of a personal connection to this issue of, Christianity and, issues regarding insecurity in Nigeria. His church, the Christian Reformed Church, actually has roots in Nigeria because of the missionary work that they've been doing in Nigeria for over 100 years. So he, jokingly referred to his church as an African church that's headquartered in Michigan. And, he also, on a more personal level, his wife has been to Nigeria, I believe, on a mission trip, his sister as well. So he also has people in his life that are somewhat close to Nigeria in this way. So these allegations allegations that the U.S. has made about a Christian genocide in Nigeria is one that he's been following for a very long time. Another point that he made was, yes, even though the U.S. government is shut down, they have subcommittees. The U.S. government has a range of different subcommittees within the government that essentially focus on different issues, and he is a member of the Africa subcommittee, so his whole role is to focus on issues relating to Africa and how the U.S. can interact with Africa in different ways. So he was basically telling me this to say that even though the government is shut down, they can walk and chew gum at the same time. They can focus on multiple things at the same time. And while, yes, the purpose right now is to reopen the government, they still can focus on international issues as well as domestic ones. And then I believe you heard him there saying that he also just believes in Nigeria as an economic powerhouse, as a cultural powerhouse, and despite him calling out calling out the Nigerian government and government officials for not doing enough when it comes to security, it doesn't take away from the fact that he holds Nigeria in very high esteem. And I think that's somewhat of a diversion from what we've heard from President Trump, who called Nigeria, a now disgraced country. So, yeah, a lot of interesting key points that he made in the conversation I had with him.
All right. Thank you so much, Annie. Again, well done on that interview. A lot of key insights, and especially around the economic sanctions as a talking point that we were having here about how that's, a very massive concern. It should be of huge concern to us. But the congressman also made it clear that he thinks the Nigerian government should do more to protect all citizens, including Christians. So how does the U.S. envision the way forward in terms of solutions to insecurity in Nigeria?
So I think one major point that he made that we heard him say there was that he doesn't envision it being a military intervention. Yes, his focus as of now is on economic sanctions once the government reopens and they can kind of reshift their focus back to this. Economic sanctions are essentially the name of the game here. And I think, another key point that he made was the fact that he's open to diplomatic conversations with Nigerian government officials. This is something we've heard from President Tinubu. It's something we've also heard from the Minister of Information, Mohammed Idris, that Nigeria wants to engage with the world diplomatically. And when I was speaking to him, one of the points that he made was that they're open to that. The door is not closed when it comes to the U.S. cooperating with Nigeria when it comes to insecurity or what they're calling a Christian genocide in Nigeria. They're open to communicating with Nigeria. And it's something that we also heard from Representative Riley Moore, the congressman from West Virginia, in a recent Fox News interview. He said something similar. And I think this really points to the fact that, like I said, the door is open to cooperation and communication between the U.S. and Nigeria. Now, we're still waiting on that list of ambassadors that the administration said that they would release, but the fact that a congressman is saying that, he's welcoming a delegation to Washington when they're ready, I think that that's definitely a step in the right direction when it comes to solutions to the issues of insecurity in the country.